A good life is a life built around fulfilling work, play, relationships, and lifelong learning. Welcome to Good Life Conversations, where we explore the stories and strategies of inspiring everyday people who are striving to create a life of purpose, meaning, and connection. Hi there, welcome to this Good Life Conversation. My name is Jay. I'm the host and the founder of Discover Year, and today's guest is Elaine Uskoski. Welcome, Elaine.
Thanks, Jay. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming. And Elaine is a very interesting person and done many things in her life, but I'll just tell you what she's up to now in terms of her career. So she's an author, speaker, and parent coach in video gaming addiction awareness. So Elaine works with parents and often youth, young adults who are addicted to video games. She's also the official parent coach with an organization called Game Quitters. And Elaine has a story, and she might take the opportunity to explain to you how she got into this field. It's very personal for her. And I think it's really interesting because many of the young people out there, many of our students at Discover Year quite like their video games. So welcome, Elaine, and I'd love to dive in. The first question, this is Good Life Conversations. The intention behind the name is to explore all facets of life or many facets of life, not just work. So we'd love to start by helping our young people understand, our audience, what does a typical day look like for you? I'd love for you to include kind of what time you get up. Do you have any morning rituals? How much time do you spend working in a day, and kind of what the flow of that work might look and feel like? How do you wind down your days? What time do you go to bed? Any rituals in the evening? Just to give all of our young people a bit of an idea of what it might look for you to have a sense of well-being.
Okay, I wake at 7 a.m. usually, and I used to work out from 7 till 8, have a bad shoulder, so that's gone off track for a few months until we get the shoulder better. So still playing tennis though, still doing lots of walking and gardening to stay active. I don't actually start my day coaching until 10 in the morning. That gives me a lot of time to answer emails and get ready for my day, go through my files and see who I'm meeting with during the day. I only work Monday to Thursday. I take Friday, Saturday, Sunday off because my job is a bit of a brain drain. I'm dealing with a lot of personal issues with families that can be pretty hard on the heart at times. I do know how to detach from that and not take it on, but I still need those 3 days to really recharge. And at nighttime, I always journal. I've journaled since 1989, and usually do a little bit of reading as well to sort of calm myself into sleep.
Amazing. Okay, a couple of follow-up questions there. How did you learn that the 3 days was needed for you to detach and recharge, like the 3-day weekend? How long did it take you to figure that out, and how long have you been in that practice?
I haven't worked 5 days for years, so I learned it a long, long time ago. I did holistic health coaching for 20 years as well. And again, that's really draining. So I just know where my max is and respect that. I just,
Hmm.
I don't want to be tired. And I also found it was affecting my sleep if I didn't stay on that schedule.
Very interesting. And so one thing that I like about this is that knowing you, I know how passionate you are about the work that you do. And I can see even when we talk about it, how much you enjoy it. It's obvious. So I think this is interesting because part of the goal of these conversations is to kind of bring forth some of the complexities of life, not to try to oversimplify things. So in one breath, you're saying, I love what I do. The other breath, you're saying, I need time to recover from it. Can you tell us a little bit more, if you can, about that, about what does that mean? How did you learn that that was necessary for you? Because a lot of our students, I think, will connect to that.
Yeah, I think when you're dealing with people's personal struggles and issues and you're naturally empathetic, then you're going to feel a lot of that. And I think it just takes extra time for me to step away from it and recharge myself so that I can present as the best possible person when I am meeting with people. I don't want to make any slip ups. I don't want to say the wrong thing. I want to make sure I'm really alert. And so I just find having that extra day to recover helps with that portion.
Mm.
But yeah, I absolutely love what I do. And so, but I also really love my days off. I love nurturing me.
Yeah. Brilliant. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of fundamental. One of the fundamental reasons we're doing these conversations and why we call them good life conversations is really a holistic view. Thank you for that. And I'm curious about the journaling, if you don't mind a follow-up question. Do you keep those journals, and what benefits do you find come for you from journaling?
Yeah, my best friend gave me a journal for Christmas in 1988, and I thought, oh, okay, I guess I'm going to start journaling. I don't remember asking for this, but okay. And so in January 1989, I started writing. I actually met my husband that year as well. So our entire relationship, marriage, children, everything is documented. I use a 10-year plan journal now, so I can actually look back. So it's a very large book, and so it has all 10 years. Right now, I'm on the 10th year of one of my books. And so I can actually look back if I'm writing at night, and I can go, what was happening this day 5 years ago? And my family loves that because I'll send them little texts and say, hey, 5 years ago today, Jake graduated or whatever happened. And so they think that's fun too. It's actually been used in a court of law twice.
Whoa.
Yes. Yeah, a friend of mine got a speeding ticket and the police officer put the wrong date on it. And she said, I'm pretty sure I was with you that day. Can you confirm? And someone else had a lawsuit going on with their a renovator with their home. And we happened to be visiting the home on a particular day and they needed that information then as well. So that was fun. Yeah, I sometimes like to just look back and see how much I've grown and changed as well. So yeah, I love journaling.
So there's this idea that, like, looking back, part of the benefits to you are looking back and kind of memory related. And then are you also enjoying, like, in the moment? Of course, we hear about journaling being, helpful for mindfulness. And is that part of it? Is it therapeutic in the moment for you as well?
Yeah, it's really therapeutic for me to recap my day and see how my day went and how I felt about how the day flowed. Yeah.
Yeah. Man, that is amazing. A long time, a 10-year. I'm picturing like something the size of my desk. I will have to see that
It's not that
someday.
big.
Okay, very cool. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we like to, again, this is very holistic, and you've highlighted a couple of things that you do for activity or exercise, which perhaps is related to the next question that we like to ask, which is about your hobbies. What do you do for fun? What do you do to kind of get away when you're on those 3 days of recovering from work?
Yeah, in the summer it's gardening. I love my gardens. In fact, because I work from home, I'll even between clients go walk in my garden for 15 minutes so that I can just kind of recharge as well. I love photography. And playing tennis, of course, is one of my favorite things to do. I didn't learn to play tennis till I was 39 years old, actually. So it's exciting to actually feel like an athlete for the first time in my life. I'm not that great, but I didn't grow up athletic, so it felt good to just decide, no, I'm just going to do this and then fall in love with it and really enjoy it. Yeah. I love gathering people together. So we throw a lot of house parties and dinner parties. And yeah, I just, going out with girlfriends for lunches. I just love pulling people together and nurturing my friendships as well.
Very cool. This is the third time that people have in one way or another alluded to relationships or communicating with loved ones or even like meeting new people as a hobby. So, and I think most people don't think of it that way. That's why I think it's interesting, because a few of our mentors have specifically said, hey, this is a hobby of mine, like getting to know people, being with people I love. So I think that's interesting. And for the tennis, it sounds like you said, I'm going to do tennis, and then you learned to love it. Am I understanding that correctly? And if so, why did you decide to just start tennis?
Well, like I said, I wasn't an athlete as a child. I, was 100 pounds soaking wet in high school. So I was always chosen not great for your self-esteem. But my kids started playing sports when they were young. So my son was 7. And what struck me was, if I don't do sports as an adult, what I teach them is that sports end when high school or school ends. And so I should probably set an example and pick up a sport and play sports. So I spent a couple of years going to the gym first, and then I picked up a tennis racket and took lessons. And yeah, my husband was playing. That was why I gravitated to tennis. And now I'm like a crazy fan. I watch all the tournaments on TV. I volunteer every year. I've for 14 years volunteered at the National Bank Open here in Toronto. And so, yeah, no, I'm a super fan.
Very cool. Interesting reasons to get started and to now loving it like that. Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay. I'd love to hear about, we like to talk a lot about failure, and our mentors often say, well, I don't really think about them as failures, but if there's a failure, a lesson you've learned, some way that you had a misstep or made a mistake or didn't achieve a result that you wanted in your life recently, or a big one at some point in your life, can you tell us about that and what you learned?
Failure. The first thing that comes to mind is I don't always get results with coaching. And what I've learned is that you have to let go of the outcome, that you're still going to give and provide the same service to every client that you do, but it's up to them whether they decide to do the work or not. And if they don't, then that's not really my failure. And I don't want to take that on, because it used to bother me if people weren't, doing the work and having the success that I wanted them to have. And I can't really control that. So I've just learned to let go of the outcome and surrender to that.
Such a common thing in the world of helpers, of coaches and counselors and therapists. And I'm curious to know, and I think many of our audience members would be curious to know, how did you learn to let go of those outcomes?
I don't know. I just decided. I
Yeah.
just decided it was best for my health if I don't take that on. Like, why? It's not my karma, so to speak. So, like, why would I be upset if they're not willing to do the work and have the
Mm.
success they could have? Because I worked really hard at it with my own son when he became addicted. And I remember feeling so strongly about needing a result that I literally said to him, you can hate me for the rest of your life. I give you permission, but I'm not going to stop trying to save you from yourself. And so I was willing to do whatever it took to get him back on track. But I recognize that not all parents have the strength to do that, nor the means, nor the willingness. And so it used to frustrate me because I wanted people to feel just like I did about it, but they don't. And so, I've just come to learn that that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's certainly, I imagine for most people, it's something that takes time. It's not something you wake up one day and decide, I'm not going to care what if people get the outcome. It's probably something you recognized. And then I imagine took time, even unconsciously, for you to really come to grips with it. I know that's been the case for me.
Addiction is not linear. It's, you don't become addicted overnight. So you're not going to go into recovery that quickly either. But I found that in holistic health as well. There's certain people that just want a quick and easy fix, and then there are people who are willing to put in the time and the work.
Yeah. Maybe now is a good time if you'd like to share the story of how you came into this world of video game addiction. You just mentioned your son was addicted and you did everything you could to help him, which was a positive result, right? We're happy to share kind of that right away. But can you tell us a little bit about what happened and what you've learned about video game addiction?
Yeah, for me, I got an SOS call in 2014, October 31st. Actually, it was Halloween Day, from my son who was in second year university. And I learned he hadn't been going to class for 2 months, that he'd been holed up in his dorm room and he was gaming up to 16 hours a night until he would pass out. He was not thriving. He was not eating. He wasn't grooming. He was a pretty fragile mess, according to the email. I knew something wasn't right. I couldn't put a finger on what it was. And so the university had finally caught up with him and said that the doors of his dorm were being locked, the locks were being changed. And so he had 3 days. So he was really calling me because he needed to come home. He was being kicked out. He wasn't calling me to say he had a video gaming addiction. He thought he had a time management issue. But I started to recognize the signs. I also knew that he had gravitated to gaming online when he was in middle school because he'd been bullied, and that became his community. So when things weren't going well in first year of university, which we didn't know until later, he started gravitating back to that community again. So I brought him home, and we started him into some counseling. There wasn't any video gaming addiction counseling back then, but he did see a counselor, worked with a counselor for 8 weeks. I, got him back on track because he had lost weight. He was 6'2" at the time and just weighed 127 pounds. So clearly he wasn't thriving. So worked on that as well. And then he went back to second semester to pick up what we learned was the 3 courses he failed in first semester, because I didn't want him to be 2 years behind, and he felt like he could manage it again. And of course, he relapsed in the first week again. Came home again, had a long talk. Do you still want to be in university? Do you want a gap year? Do you want to change your program? And he thought about it and he said, no, I really want to get my degree. This is my dream. And so I said, sky's the limit. What do you need? And he said, I think I need you to drive me to school and walk me to class, which was an hour away. And so I put my business on hold and I did that for several weeks until he could manage. And then he wanted to stay at school. So for accountability, he had to take a picture of himself every time he was in the class or the lecture hall and email it to me so he knew he was there. Came home every weekend. And that went on for 2.5 years of relapse, detox, relapse, detox. It was painful for both of us. And then the summer between 4th and 5th year, he made a commitment to stop. He realized at that point it was destroying his life. And that was 6 years ago this summer. So he got his degree. He's living on his own. He's very successful at his career. And sometimes he speaks with me. He's really happy to help where he can. He's got a full-time job, so he can't be doing this with me all the time. But yeah, anytime he reaches a young person and knows it's made a difference, he's really pleased.
Yeah. What a great turnaround.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he recently just said to me, I know if I started playing a video game today, I'd be really good at any game I played because I've always gravitated. He loved board games, card games, and he still plays board games. He goes, I know I'd be good at it, but I'm not gonna. It's not a good enough reason to do it just because I'm good at it. Mm-hmm.
So he, in fact, no longer plays video games or like board games or
he plays board games. No,
okay.
He plays board games, but he would never go back to a video game. He goes, I know I could be good at it. I have a lot of kids who will say to me, I play it because I'm good at it. So I shared that with him and he said, it doesn't matter how good. I know I'd be good at it still. I'm not doing it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. He just can't. He can't manage it.
It sounds like
he loves to play board games. Yeah. He plays Dungeons and Dragons. He does Magic the Gathering at a hobby shop. Yeah, he's still very active in games and strategies. Yeah, he snowboards. He's rock climbing. He's playing basketball. He's got lots of other interests. He's got tons of friends. He's very busy. He loves his job. So yeah, he's filled his life with other things that are more meaningful and are not addictive.
So there's something that differentiates the Dungeons and Dragons as an example, or board games, those types of games versus video games where he finds those not to be addictive. Is that it? Or they're just the context is different?
Well, because when you're playing a game at a hobby shop, there's a start time and an end time. And when you're playing video games online, there's no end. Mm-hmm. And he could never stop. He just would play for hours and hours and hours. Yeah. And it was knowing that he was graduating and he had a job in his field to walk into that made him go, oh, I'm going to destroy that opportunity. This is not worth it.
And for any of our young people or parents that might be tuning into this, if you can summarize quickly, there's a lot of people who play video games these days. How do you kind of delineate when it becomes problematic versus, maybe an intense pastime?
Yeah, usually we would look for signs like they've given up other areas of interest in their life that they loved and they've stopped. They're not participating in family events, or usually the family dynamic is crumbling as well. If they're not grooming, we look for those signs: not brushing their teeth, not showering, not eating, or eating a lot of junk at the console. Interpersonal relationships are suffering, but they don't care. They play anyway. When they're obsessed and that's all they think about and they can't wait to get to the next game, we know that's a problem. they can't stop. Even if we try to implement regulations, they still can't stop themselves. That lack of impulse control. Those are some of the signs. Sleep, changes in sleep. That's one of the things I noticed with Jake, was this change in sleep patterns, which I learned later. He was asleep in some of his classes in high school, wasn't even acknowledging that. His grades started to slip. That's another sign.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Thank you. Those are good. I mean, those are good right away for someone to kind of at least take stock of, what their situation is. And it's great to know that there are people now in this emerging field, or what I think is emerging for the last number of years. Like you said, when it happened for Jake, there were no specific coaches. So thank you. I know there's a
Still
lot of
not
people.
enough of us.
No.
Yeah, we need more of us.
Yeah. Great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And you mentioned interpersonal relationship. I'm certainly, I believe some of our students will be curious about this, and maybe parents, to chat with you. But you mentioned interpersonal relationships, and in fact, that's one of the questions that we have, that we'd like to ask our mentors is, what have you learned about relationships in your life? What's important that you've learned about relationships?
Oh, having them, first of all, super important. Yeah. I dedicated my first book to my girlfriends. I literally said, I dedicate this to my girlfriends. They save my life every day. Yeah, I think we need friendships and relationships for support, to hold us up. And we need them to just relax and be able to enjoy as well. For me, I love really meaty, meaningful conversations. So I'm looking for that in a relationship. I'm not, I don't like going to parties and just talking about the weather and fluff. Doesn't interest me. I get bored really easy with that. Yeah, I think it's probably the most important thing in my life is my relationships. Yeah.
And when you say your girlfriends saved your life, would you like to share a little bit more about that? What does that mean?
Well, especially, I mean, my first book was part of talking about motherhood. I didn't have girlfriends when I was in high school a lot. I was raised with three brothers, the only girl, so I kind of was a bit of a tomboy and hung out with guys, because that's what was comfortable for me. I didn't really understand the benefits of a female relationship until I had a child. And then I needed to be with other mothers who understood what I was going through as a new mom, and how difficult parenting in general is when you first start out, and probably continues to be. Sorry, don't want to make you feel bad about parenting when you're so little, but it doesn't always
Okay.
get easier.
Eyes wide open over here. Eyes wide open.
Yeah, that's probably, and then so that extended that need for that kind of somebody who can really empathize with the position you're in and can share their own tips and what's helped them as a parent. That continued right through when I discovered that Jake was addicted. I mean, he was 19, but he was still my child. And there weren't a lot of articles, books, anything written about video gaming addiction. So I really relied on my girlfriends to just listen to me, talk about the frustrations, and talk about how I, wasn't quite sure if I was getting through to him and how I was going to do this. And if we, were out, I needed my girlfriends also for breaks during that time. And so when we were together, I needed them to also be understanding that if he were to call or text me, I have to take that call immediately. And everybody was super supportive of that. Even though they didn't understand the addiction itself, they really tried to, support me in the position I was in as a mom. So that was, I can't say enough about having girlfriend relationships for that.
Yeah. That's something that's a big part of the Discover Your program, is helping build some of these, the environment within which other people and ourselves feel comfortable to be vulnerable, and to really focus on trying to understand rather than judge others. So it sounds like you found a group of people for you, or perhaps multiple groups, where that really is the case, where you have this mutual desire to understand each other rather than to, cast insults or judgments.
Right. Yeah, I belong to a few women's network groups too. And that I too rely on, because, I'm an entrepreneur. And so I want to be around other entrepreneur women that understand that process as well. And I can't say enough about the network groups here in the city I live in. They're super supportive and
Mm.
very community oriented. And so, yeah, that's important as well. So it's not just about motherhood, support comes in all parts of your life.
Yeah. Well, and one thing that you're kind of describing in a roundabout way right now that we call authentic networking in Discovery Year, and it's this idea. When I think a lot of young people certainly have this idea of networking and what that means, and they've seen images online, and it often feels like it's cocktail parties and you're handing out business cards and just everyone has an agenda. So what I hear you describing is tapping into existing organizations and events where you yourself are going not to meet as many people as possible, perhaps, but to find other people who have similar values and interests to you. Is that something that you like? How did you learn to do that? Or is it pretty natural for you?
To network, I was terrified when I first started networking. That was many years ago. I entered a network group. I think someone took me to one. That's initially how it started. But I was really shy about it. I didn't know what I was going to. You have to stand up and do your elevator speech, and that didn't feel comfortable. I remember there was a speaker at one of the first ones who said, "Nobody's coming." And we all kind of went, "What do you mean, nobody's coming?" She's like, "The customers are not coming to you. You have to go get the customers. It's, you have to learn how to relate to people and how to build relationships in business. You can't network and hand out your business card and do a sales pitch. You want to build relationships with people so that for me to refer someone in business, I need to know, who are they? Are they somebody that's trustworthy? Are they somebody that's empathetic? Are they somebody that's really knowledgeable in their business and that I feel comfortable with?" So to me, it's about building the relationships rather than doing the sales. And also the one of the network groups I do, the person that leads it always has some kind of message that she wants to work on that particular event, which will come up for any of us and help us learn to appreciate what we need to do and grow as business people. And so there's learning as well as the whole business or the relationship building.
Yeah, great. I always love to hear, especially I think our students benefit from hearing people who do this well, and I can attest to the fact that you do it very well. And certainly I think some part of it is a talent, but it sounds like for you, you were pretty scared of it at the beginning, and you found a way to learn how to do it well, and find what works for you. So I think that's inspiring. Thank you.
Yeah, I think you
Okay.
have to find the right kinds of groups to get that. They don't all work that way.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah.
And we talk a lot about the test and learn model in Discovery Year, and the 10-year journal I think is interesting, because a lot of times our students are keen to know, like, how can I do this now? How can I figure it out? And I think the 10-year journal is a good example. You can only understand that a 10-year journal is useful if you've been journaling perhaps for already a
Right.
few years.
Right.
So sometimes you just got to dive in and be aware of what seems to be working for you and what's not, and carry on with the things that are. Very cool. All right, I love to switch gears here for a second, and I'm interested in this question because before we started recording, you told me that your answer to this question has changed recently. So our students in Discover Your Travel in the month of February, which is a highlight for all of us, what is the favorite place that you've ever traveled to, and why?
Yeah, when I was asked last time, it was Tokyo, uh, and it's now Thailand. Still Asia, I suppose. Uh, yeah, I went last November to meet up with Cam Adair from Game Quitters, so we could do some video content together. Couldn't really figure out how to do it over Zoom well. So it was a perfect excuse to go. And he hosted me as well. His girlfriend's actually from Thailand, so she was the most gracious host you'd ever want to be with. But it was the most zen. I mean, it's a Buddhist country, so they're not allowed to raise their voices. They've learned very early on to just be very calm and kind and sweet people. Yeah, just the loveliest place, the most beautiful. Went to an elephant sanctuary as well while I was there. The food was exceptional and the weather was fantastic. The beaches are great. Everything about it was just amazing. It was magical. It was really a magical trip. The last night we had dinner right on the beach on the sand. And I remember taking a picture of Joy, who's his girlfriend, who's sitting across from me, and literally there was a full moon behind her. And I noticed as I was taking the picture and thought, of course there is. Like, everything about this woman and this country and how they, accepted and hosted me for the week was just absolutely magical. So yeah, we were in the island of Koh Samui, which is a little different than if you're going to the city of Bangkok. But it was amazing. Yeah.
If ever there was a sales pitch for a location for our students, that was probably it. Yeah. Now I have not been to Thailand. I've been to a lot of places, but you've now put it back on my radar. So thank you.
I want to go again. I'm trying to convince my son to go with me so the three of us can do video content.
I was going to say, what's your ploy? How are you trying to pull the strings to get the family over there, or your husband, or
Exactly.
whatever? Yeah.
Exactly. I keep in touch with Joy still, and she's always saying, when are you coming back? Bring your husband this time. Come back. Come back.
Very cool.
Yeah. They're very nationalistic. So they want you to believe that that is the best country to visit. So they go out of their way. Also, massage is only $14.
Done. I'm in.
I had 3 in a week.
Oh, I am in. I am in for that.
Yeah, massage on the beach. That was amazing.
Doesn't get much better. Very cool. Thank you. Okay. We'll wrap up with a question. Thank you again. We could talk for days, I know, and but we'll try to keep within our time parameters here. And our last question is really more advice. So we call these good life conversations, the aim being to help young people think about, beyond what they might see in social media and the curated perfect lives that people are living and how much money people are making. And, this constant pressure that they might be feeling to make a certain amount of money and to live a certain kind of lifestyle to achieve success. And what we want to help them embody and strive for is fulfillment and meaning and purpose and connection. So, for these young people that are tuning in, what advice would you offer for them to, knowing what you know, to build a meaningful life, a good life?
Keep your world large instead of small, and network as much as you can, not just business networking, you just network with people. So if you don't know what to do anything. Like if you're looking for work, just get a job anywhere, because you could be at that job and someone could recognize a particular skill. And then they could say, my uncle, is looking for somebody that's doing that. And so that can lead to another job that is more fulfilling than the one you're in. Or you can meet other people that you'll connect with at that job, or they will connect you with other people at another, even if it's a social setting. You can go out after work and then that will introduce you to other people. Just keep that network growing, build on those relationships to keep your world large. I find because we're spending so much time on the internet, that our worlds are becoming smaller and smaller, and we're becoming more insular and spending far too much time on our own. And I just really think it's important to be with people as much as you can, and learn from them, relate to them, and enjoy them. Yeah, and build those networks.
Thank you. Yeah, this is a lot of the topics that you've touched on are things that come up for us in our programming and in our discussions. So I'm not surprised to hear that, but I hope it's reinforcing to our students to hear it from other, successful, fulfilled people like you. So what I'm taking away from this, the big picture for me is the thought of, even if you love what you do for work, it doesn't mean that you want to do that 7 days a week. There are a variety of reasons why you might not. So that might be interesting for young people. And then this idea that really relationships are everything. And that's a common theme for a lot of our mentors, but different types of relationships are also useful.
And the relationship you have with yourself is probably the most important, which is what take those 3 days.
Yeah. Sorry, husband, I'll be back in 3 days. Yeah. Very cool. Thanks, Elaine. I really appreciate your time. I know this will be useful for our students and the audience who might be tuning in, and our students will, I'm sure, have great questions for you when they meet you very soon.
Yeah, I look forward to meeting them. Thank you for everything that you do for students. I love your work always.
Thank you. Likewise. Thanks for listening. This has been Good Life Conversations. We hope to see you at the next one.